It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of July 16th, 1999. We got a pretty packed show this week. Some notable movies came out this weekend, and we're going to delve into all 5 of them today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into it. And why not start off with the biggest new release of the weekend? Not only that, but one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is, of course, Stanley Kubrick's last masterpiece, and that is Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in Eyes Wide Shut.
Where the rainbow ends, those two girls. Who were they?
What in the hell are you talking about? I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. You've been way out of your depth.
If you only knew.
Eyes Wide Shut, rated R. Starts Friday, July 16th at a theater near you.
I have seen one or two things in my life, but never anything like this.
What in the hell are you talking about? I don't think you realize what kind of trouble you were in. You've been way out of your depth.
If you only knew.
Eyes Wide Shut, rated R. Starts Friday, July 16th at a theater near you.
I mean, honestly, I pretty much have said everything I need to say about this movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I just talked about it on the Reviewing Network Talks About it. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link to it in the corner. But, there's really not much more I can add to this film that hasn't already been said already. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the visual atmosphere of it. I like the performances of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman a lot. I like the questions that the movie asks of. It's a long movie, and it never really feels bored. You never feel boring. You never really feel like you're wasting your time with it. You get so invested in what's going on in the film itself, but like I said, I don't really have much more to say about this one. Not because I haven't seen the film; I've seen this one multiple times, but mostly because I pretty much delved into everything that I've already had to say about this film. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and like I said, if you want to see what I had to say about it, I'll put a link to the previous video I did in the corner here. But like I said, not much more to say about this one, so we can be really quick on that one. Eyes Wide Shut, one of my favorite films of all time. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Lake Placid.
We heard a man was bit in half.
It's a crocodile.
50 feet.
They came here to study it. You? Nobody goes near the water.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going back in the water.
They came here to save it. We set a trap on the beach.
Come and get it!
The question is,
Where is he?
who will save them?
Kelly!
Lake Placid.
He didn't eat me. Because he just ate a cow, stupid.
Rated R.
I mean, judging by that trailer, you would have thought this movie would have been not the big success that it would eventually become because of kind of misleading on where they were trying to sell the film at, but not so much. The film actually did pretty well. We'll get into that in just a second here, but the story here, you have, a giant crocodile that terrorizes this fictional town in Black Lake, Maine, and as a dysfunctional group of police and scientists attempting to capture or kill this creature, and you have a cast that includes Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Brendan Gleeson, Oliver Platt, Betty White, Meredith Salinger, Mariska Hargitay. It's directed by Steve Miner, who's done a couple of Friday the 13th films. Actually, he did the first 2 Friday the 13th movies. Kind of a nice return to form for him. He also did a Halloween H2O just before this came out, so this was kind of a little bit of a brief reprisal of his career, because this film did really well. Like, it was a film that was not expected to make a ton of money, and like I said, it had some kind of mishandled marketing overall, but the film went on to become one of the big surprise hits of the year, and it's a pretty fun movie. It's a comedy horror film, and I think that's one of the big things that the trailer failed to sell the movie on. It just sort of is kind of a predictable movie, kind of like it's trying to be the next Jaws and all that, but what helps is that it has a smartly written script by David E. Kelley, of course the man who gave us Ally McBeal, and has written for L.A. Law and The Practice, created The Practice as well. So there's a lot going for this movie, and the film is just a ton of fun. Betty White is fantastic in this movie. Like, she's playing it straight up, and she knows exactly what kind of a movie she's in, and it's just a fun movie, man. The creature effects look pretty cool. It's Stan Winston, for God's sakes. I mean, that guy can do anything, almost anything, and make it work. I mean, it's just a fun movie, man. And then after that, they made like 5 made-for-TV direct-to-video sequels that were not that great. That were pretty much what everyone thought this first film was going to be like. But no, it has the smart script. It has a really cool looking creature, has some pretty good visual effects, a really good cast to make it work, a director who can make this type of material work, because considering that he's worked on other horror franchises like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And it's just a really fun movie, man. You can sit back, relax, go into the theater, watch it, eating popcorn and having a drink and all that. And it's just like, it's the perfect popcorn summer movie. It's a good fun time, good guilty pleasure movie, fantastic film. Lake Placid, I can't recommend it enough. So, on that note, on to the next movie, and that is Taye Diggs in The Wood.
I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was in days when I wish I was a kid again. Back in the days
Play this game for life.
I'm glad you got you guys for friends.
Yeah, I like that. Back it. Hey, back it. Hey,
You also have Omar Epps and Richard T. Jones in there, but this is a story that you kind of have seen before in other films. You have a story where you have the wedding day of a writer's friend, and things aren't looking good when the groom goes missing before the ceremony, and during his and his other male friends' effort to retrieve him, the writer named Mike can't help but tell the story of his youth with his friends, and ever since he met them on his first day at a new school, they've shared the common experience of growing up and life's discoveries. The director of this is Rick Famuyiwa. Famuyiwa, I think I'm pronouncing it right, but he's directed other films such as Brown Sugar. He did Dope, one of my favorite movies from 2015. In fact, my favorite film from 2015. And more recently, he's directed films like episodes of The Mandalorian, and also wrote Talk to Me with Don Cheadle and Taraji P. Henson. So he's got a really good resume to his name. And this is a pretty decent film, too. I wouldn't recommend it as one of the higher quality movies of this type, but I've seen other movies that have been done much better. But I think this is a very good, well-made film, and I think it works mostly because of the talent that they have on board here. I mean, Omar Epps is very good here, so is Richard T. Jones and Taye Diggs. Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan would later appear again later in the year in The Best Man. Lisa Ray McCoy, who's been a very underrated actress in my opinion. I've seen her in a lot of stuff that she's actually been really good in. Tamala Jones. Just a really solid film. It doesn't really do anything new or engaging compared to something like what Spike Lee would do, or something like the Friday movies did. But it's fine for what it is. It definitely delivers on everything it promises. It doesn't really have to give you too much to really get into the feel and enjoyment of the film. It gives you just enough, and you just feel very good coming out of it. I think it's a very solid film. It's actually been a while since I've actually seen it. I might want to check this one out again at some point, but it's actually a pretty fun film. If you like films like Friday, if you like some of these movies like Dope as well, this director's film, Roll Bounce is another one I could think of. Definitely check this one out, because I think you might actually be pleasantly surprised at how good it actually is. So, yeah, that's The Wood, so let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Muppets from Space.
Welcome to a house where the normal routine.
Good morning, everyone. The raspberry flapovers will be out in a moment.
Is anything but.
The kitchen is closed.
The Muppets are back. They all had their place in the world. Except for Gonzo.
I've always wondered where I came from, who I am.
Hey, Gonzo, don't you think you ought to take a little break? You're starting to freak out the neighbors.
Now, he's about to find out he's not alone.
You look terrible. No, I'm just fine.
People of Earth, do not be alarmed. Get ready for alien contact.
So come here. My Captain Alphabet is sending me a message. It said, are you there?
Are you sure it didn't say, are you nuts?
Close encounters. And other shocking moments.
I should go change with him.
The mothership is calling me home.
The mood is tense. My hair looks great.
Let's go get Gonzo.
Rescue me and take me in your
This guy's a freak show.
Oh, I'm gonna hurl.
Columbia Pictures and Jim Henson Pictures
Now, who wouldn't put too much gunpowder in the cannon?
take you where no Muppet has gone before.
This is Miss Piggy with the UFO Alien exclusive. What? Hello, this is my story.
There he is.
Muppets from Space.
No,
nostrils. How do you smell?
Awful. Trust me, I'm his roommate.
So this is the second film that Sony Pictures had done with Jim Henson Pictures, the first one being the infamous Buddy. But this was supposed to be the movie that was supposed to put them in the forefront, like get them out there as a serious contender in the major in like a studio, like to really, because they got this, and also Elmo and Gratchland would come out the following year, and this one was actually not as well received as you would expect, but we'll get into that in just a second here. But the story here you see is that after Gonzo receives messages from his breakfast cereal, he determines that he's an alien, and he's trying to contact his alien brethren, but is captured by a secret government agency determined to prove the existence of extraterrestrial life, and it's up to Kermit and the gang to rescue Gonzo and help reunite him with his long-lost family. You have the actors of Jeffrey Tambor, Pat Hingle, Rob Schneider, Andy McDowell, Ray Liotta, F. Murray Abraham, David Arquette, Josh Charles, Kathy Griffin, Hulk Hogan, who was going by Hollywood Hogan at the time. And right from the start, you could pretty much tell this movie was not going to be as successful, and it was kind of a downright mess because, according to Brian Henson, the film was planned by the Henson Company to be released in February of 2000, but Columbia Pictures wanted this to be one of the big summer movies, so they basically had to rush production on this. And on top of that, because of that, there was less advertising for the film, and you have it sandwiched between competition like Tarzan and then Inspector Gadget, as well as a ton of other big summer movies. I mean, for God's sakes, this was one of the greatest summers ever, and they thought that they were going to really try to compete with this. And if you're going to compete with that, you should have done it a little bit beforehand, way beforehand on that front. But this is also the first Muppet film to not be a traditional musical film with original music. Instead of opting for a soundtrack, a primary consisting of classic soul and funk tracks. Like early drafts of the film had original music, but including a song Eye to the Sky, which was written and recorded by Ween, which was not included on the soundtrack. In fact, I don't even know if that's actually available, but the song was supposed to be intended to be sung by Gonzo. There was another song that was supposed to be I'm Gonna Go Back There Someday from the film that was originally in the Muppet movie. The song was also dropped, and they basically just used these classic songs on there, and I like a good classic soul and funk track, but I go to the Muppet movies to hear some original Muppet music, and this one just didn't really have it. And third, you could just tell that nobody involved with the Muppets wanted to be a part of this. I mean, you look at the trailer again, you see that total lack of caring from the people working behind the scenes. In fact, Frank Oz himself said it didn't turn out the way they were hoping for. They were going as far as describing it as not up to what it should have been, or nor the movie that it wanted to be. And I mean, you look at Elmo and Grouchland that came out the same year, and it looked like they took more care into that movie than it did with this film. And even that one was not that great. We'll eventually get to that one once we get to that one. But, so with all the production chutzpah, Muppets from Space seemed to be doomed to fail on arrival. And, they bring in an outside director for the first time since the Muppet movie, Tim Hill, who of course would later go on to direct stuff like Alvin and the Chipmunks, Max Keeble's Big Move, Garfield 2, Hop. Of course, he's the man who gave us the SpongeBob movies, which, there was at least something in there, at least. And the first Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, I'll give it credit that it's the most tolerable of those movies. But those films are not that great either. But there was just no way that this thing was going to live up to the expectations that we'd expect from a Muppet film. And sure enough, it did turn out to be a disappointment. The story really doesn't work. We're really expected to believe that Gonzo was an alien this whole time. Like, I understand the reason why most of the Muppet movies work is because they're self-aware of the story. It's not supposed to make any sense. But this time around, you can't really ignore it. It's a bad story that should have had some more thought to put into it before they filmed it. And because second thing is that the songs aren't original. I mean, the music here really is lackluster. It's okay to hear the Muppets sing a popular song in 30-second ads, but in a movie like this, I mean, what's the point? Like, the live actors this time don't really seem to fit in with the Muppets. It's a shame because Jeffrey Tambor can be very funny in nearly everything he's been in, but he feels like he's just wasted here. He's not really given a whole lot to do. This is probably the only Muppet movie where I see where you could tell they were just forcing the cameos in here for no real reason whatsoever. Like, any kid out there in 1999 is going to really know who Ray Liotta or Josh Charles are. Not so much. I mean, at least in my opinion. And fourth, and this is probably the biggest overall fault of the film, is that it's just not funny. The jokes are just not funny. We go to these Muppet movies to see these beloved characters make us laugh our asses off with clearly written and sometimes very silly jokes, but we don't get any of that this time around. We got the same problem that we see in most kids' movies nowadays, where they're just forcing us to laugh at something, and some of the worst possible jokes they can give to these characters. And you could just tell that there was just something wasn't right in Denmark when they were making this movie. But yeah, Muppets from Space really is a big mess of a film. You can honestly tell there was a lot of production problems. You could tell it was rushed. Everything about it just failed miserably, and it's a shame because you know these guys can do so much better than this. And if they had gone with their original plan, this thing probably could have been a whole lot better. But as it is, it was just a major misfire, and it would take us 12 years to finally get a really good Muppets film again with the Muppets involved. And we'll eventually get to that when we get to the 2011 film. But as far as Muppets from Space goes, it's the one that I watch the least. I watch all the other Muppet movies so many times. This one, not so much. So that's Muppets from Space. But let's go ahead and get to probably one of the most influential movies of the is of 1999, and would later go into the decade of the 2000s. And that is, of course, the Blair Witch Project. So basically there you have the story about these three student filmmakers who go into the Black Hills near Burkittsville, Maryland in 1994 to film a documentary about the local myth known as the Blair Witch. The three disappear, their equipment and footage are discovered a year later, and at the time the perfectly found footage is the movie the viewer sees. And found footage was still seen as this is actually something that's happened, but this isn't the first time the Blair Witch Project was a film that actually used this. There's been other films before this, mostly on television. UPN had a alien documentary that was very successful for them, and that was one of the first ones they did. But this was the one that, when it came out, it had a massive marketing campaign, and it completely made you believe that this indeed happened in real life, and that this is completely true, 100%. Nowadays, we know that that's not the case, especially when you consider that the actors who were involved here, Heather Donahue, Michael Williams, and Joshua Leonard, went on to be interviewed several times on many TV shows and many movies, such as Entertainment Tonight, and also on The Tonight Show and all that. And you know what? It didn't really matter when it was all said and done, because the film really did pan out into something big. Like, after its Sundance run, Artisan Entertainment, then precursor to Lionsgate, they basically bought the film for $1.1 million, and almost immediately the film took off big time, making it one of the most successful independent films of all time. Of course, launching a media franchise with sequels that have not been as successful as this one, but we'll eventually delve into that one as we move along here. And of course, it helped to revive the found footage technique, which would later be used with the Paranormal Activity movies and Cloverfield as well. But so with all those things going against the film, the fact that this film was not really a true story and all that, I mean, the marketing push for this was absolutely incredible. I mean, they really took advantage of the marketing campaign, and everybody else did a pretty good job of parodying this. Like, of course, the most notable parody is the one that Cartoon Network did with the Scooby-Doo gang, entitled The Scooby-Doo Project.
Let's split up. They're always saying it. Well, I, for one, am sick of splitting up. It never helps, and I'm always getting stuck with Velma. Why are Fred and Daphne always heading off together anyway? I'm so hungry.
Which is amazing in its own right. I can't really show you anything else from that, but you can definitely find it on YouTube, so definitely look for that on there. But my personal favorite is the Target Black Friday ad they did just a couple weeks later.
It's Target's 2-day sale. What if I oversleep? What if I forget my checkbook? Target has Garth Brooks' latest releases, The Magic of Christmas, and Garth Brooks in the Life of Chris Gaines. I love Garth. I love Chris. I don't know who I love more.
Target's 2-day sale starts Friday. Come in early for incredible savings and surprises.
Need a map?
Oh, come on! I gotta get to Target.
I don't know, to me, like, after the Scooby-Doo Project, I mean, that's probably the second best parody they've ever done of the Blair Witch Project, at least in my personal opinion. I thought that was pretty funny, and that's one that was etched in my memory for a long time. That was back in November of '99 when I first saw that, and that's been, every time I think of the Blair Witch Project, for some reason I think of two other things, the Scooby-Doo Project and also the Target ad. But behind the marketing campaign, was the movie itself worth it in the end? Well, it all depends on how you feel about it. Like, can you buy into the idea that this is clearly a movie? This is not something that was intended to be seen as serious, even though the marketing campaign did a pretty good job of doing that. Even the years after this movie's come out and everyone's kind of already made fun of it for not being real and all that, you could still look at this movie and see that there is at least effort being put into it. There's a good idea here, and the film overall, I think, does its job okay. It definitely has those moments that's going to pee people off, especially the ending. I mean, the last scene alone is kind of seen as kind of seen as a cop-out, really, because it really just kind of ends, and that's pretty much it. But that's kind of the point of the movie. Like, I know other movies like this try to do something similar to this, like most notably The Devil Inside, which was that really terrible movie that came out in 2012, where they tried to do the exact same thing, but the difference between the Devil Inside and the Blair Witch Project is that the Blair Witch Project was actually keeping you invested in what's going on. The Devil Inside just stopped. Like, it just really had nothing going on for it, and then just when you thought something interesting was going to happen, the film just ends and says, go to this website, which, by the way, doesn't even exist anymore, to find out more. And it's just like you could still go to the Blair Witch websites nowadays and still see stuff for this film that are on there, but yeah, like I said, it really depends on whether or not you could accept this as a fictional film, and I think it does its job about well enough. It doesn't work as a movie all the way through, but there are some legitimately good moments and like some good tension-filled moments, and yeah, the shaky cam stuff can get a little annoying at times, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing you can do with it, honestly. I mean, I've seen much worse with the shaky cam and the found footage element. That's actually the Blair Witch calling me right now. How dare you make fun of my movie? No, I'm just kidding. I had a phone call there. I was already deep in my conversation here, and I didn't really want to start over again, so I just kept it going there. But where did I actually leave off anyway? But like I said, as far as this movie goes, like I said, it's just kind of mediocre. Not even mediocre, it's just okay. I think it's just more than enough to acknowledge it as a film that was actually kind of decent, but it's one I probably never would watch again. Like, I'd rather watch Paranormal Activity again. I'd rather watch Cloverfield again. I think those films took this concept and did it much better, at least early on, until they kind of ruined it in their own ways. But the Blair Witch Project, I think it's fine for what it is. I definitely think it got overkill once the sequels came out, especially the second film, which we'll eventually get to when we get to 2000. But yeah, I have no nice things to say about that one. But then again, nobody else really does, honestly. But yeah, like I said, for what it is, it's perfectly fine. Like, I think it still holds up after all these years. It's one that I'd say that I'm glad I saw it once, but I really have no desire to ever watch it again, honestly. Like, once is good enough, but it's one that I probably would never ever watch again, honestly. So yeah, that's the Blair Witch Project for you. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, where next time we'll take a look at 3 films, including John DeBont's infamous remake of The Haunting, Matthew Broderick in another infamous movie, if you will, Disney's Inspector Gadget, and also Kirstie Alley, Kirsten Dunst, and a pretty good wild cast, also including Denise Richards and Drop Dead Gorgeous. So 3 films we'll look at next time, and we'll delve into those in the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. Now, don't go too far away, because after this video gets uploaded, we'll head back to 1988 on another edition of Time About the Movies Flashback with 4 movies, Jodie Foster and Kelly McGillis in The Accused, Stan Winston's Pumpkinhead, Shirley MacLaine and Matt Susaska, and also Woody Allen's Another Woman. So we'll look at those on Time About the Movies Flashback, which will be posted after this.